The room froze when I stepped inside. Blake was on one knee in the center of my aunt's living room, surrounded by fairy lights and champagne flutes, proposing to Amanda, my cousin, in front of our entire family. 50 people watching him declare his love for someone who wasn't his wife. But it wasn't the cheating that made my hands shake uncontrollably. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was the ring. My mother's emerald ring. The one I had kept locked in my jewelry box for 7 years since she died. Gone from my dresser. Now on Amanda's finger like it had always belonged to her. Like my mother had meant for her to have it. Blake looked up as the room went silent. Saw me standing in the doorway. And had the nerve to smirk. That confident smile that said he'd already won. He didn't expect me at this party. Nobody did. My name is Tessa Whitmore. I'm 37 years old. A graphic designer who works mostly from home. A peacemaker who always puts family first. A people pleaser who hates confrontation. And up until 3 weeks ago, I thought I was happily married. Blake and I had been together for almost 10 years. Married for 6 of them. I helped him build his real estate business from nothing. Designed every flyer, every website, every marketing piece that got him clients. I paid half the mortgage on our house even though I made less money. I took care of his golden retriever while he traveled for work. Those business trips to check properties and meet investors. Turns out, he was traveling to my cousin's bed. To Amanda's apartment downtown. The same cousin who used to braid my hair at family gatherings. Who I'd shared secrets with growing up. Who called me her best friend. The ring went missing 2 weeks before the engagement party. I'd noticed it was gone when I went to clean my jewelry box. The small velvet pouch where I kept my mother's emerald ring was empty. My heart had dropped into my stomach. I tore apart my bedroom looking for it. Checked every drawer, every pocket, every corner. Blake found me crying on the closet floor surrounded by scattered jewelry. I asked if he'd seen it. He looked me straight in the eye and said he hadn't touched anything. Suggested maybe I'd misplaced it during one of my bad days. During my seasonal depression that made me forgetful and scattered. I cried over losing my mother's memory for days. The ring was all I had left of her. Blake watched me sob into my pillow each night. Held me while I grieved. And said absolutely nothing about where it really was. Amanda texted me the morning of the party. It was 8 in the morning on a Saturday. Her message said exactly this: "Big day today, cuz. So excited for you to see what's coming. Can't wait to celebrate together." Followed by 3 heart emojis and a kiss face. I stared at my phone confused. I thought it was about a family announcement. Maybe my aunt was retiring. Maybe my uncle had finally sold his boat. Maybe Amanda had gotten a promotion at the marketing firm where she worked. I texted back asking what time the party started. She responded with just a winky face. Nothing else. No details. No address. No time. I assumed I'd get a proper invitation later. Assumed someone would call with information. I didn't know I was the one being erased. That I was the secret they were all keeping. That the celebration was built on my pain. When I called Aunt Maureen that afternoon asking about the party, her voice went weird. Tight and uncomfortable. She said Amanda hadn't sent me an invitation because she didn't want any drama. You know how you get when you're emotional, Tessa. Amanda thought it would be better this way. Better for who? I asked. She didn't answer directly. Just said the party was family only and maybe I should sit this one out. Let Amanda have her moment without complications. I hung up feeling sick. They were planning something together. Something that involved excluding me deliberately. My own family. The people who were supposed to protect me. I sat in my car outside the grocery store for 20 minutes trying to understand. Then I called my friend Olivia. Told her I needed to borrow a dress. Something that would make me impossible to ignore. Because I was going to that party whether they wanted me there or not. I showed up anyway wearing Olivia's red cocktail dress. Walked in through the back patio door around 7 in the evening. The party was already in full swing. Music playing. People laughing. Champagne flowing. Nobody stopped me at the door. Nobody greeted me warmly. They just stared with open mouths and wide eyes. My uncle dropped his glass. My aunt grabbed Amanda's arm. And there was Blake. Down on one knee in the center of the room. A small velvet box open in his hand. Amanda standing in front of him with tears streaming down her face. She was wearing a white dress. Like a bride already. And on her left hand, catching the light from the fairy light strung across the ceiling, was my mother's emerald ring. The antique gold band. The deep green stone surrounded by tiny diamonds. I would know that ring anywhere. Amanda clutched it like it had always been hers. Like she'd earned it. Like my mother's memory belonged to her now. Blake's smirk when he saw me burned a hole straight through my stomach. Not fear. Not guilt. Not even surprise. Just pure confidence. That look that said he had already decided how this story would go. He thought I would gasp and run away. Cry dramatically and make a scene that would prove I was the unstable one. The emotional mess Amanda had warned everyone about. Then he could comfort Amanda. Play the victim who'd finally escaped his difficult wife. He thought I would walk away silently. Let them have their moment. Disappear back into whatever hole I'd crawled out of. He didn't know me at all. 10 years together and he'd never actually seen me. Never understood that my kindness wasn't weakness. That my patience had limits. That my silence could be more dangerous than any scream. I stood in that doorway and smiled. Let them all see I wasn't leaving. I didn't make a scene at the party. Didn't throw wine or slap anyone or shout accusations. I just walked through the crowd to the dessert table. Fixed myself a plate. Poured a glass of champagne. And ate chocolate cake while everyone whispered and stared. Blake finished his proposal. Amanda said yes through confused tears. People clapped awkwardly. But the celebration felt wrong now. Poisoned by my presence. I stayed for exactly 30 minutes. Then I walked up to Amanda, kissed her cheek, and whispered congratulations. Her face went pale. I turned to Blake and said I'd see him at home. His smirk faltered. I left through the front door this time. Let it slam behind me. Drove home with my hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Crying could wait. First, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I confronted Amanda 3 days later. Drove to her apartment and knocked until she answered. She opened the door wearing an oversized sweater and yoga pants. Looking young and innocent and nothing like a woman who'd stolen her cousin's husband. I asked her directly about the ring. Where she got it. If Blake had told her the truth. She bit her lip and said he'd told her it was just sitting in a drawer. That I never wore it anymore. That it would mean more to someone who actually appreciated it. I didn't know it was your mom's, Tess. I swear. Liar. I'd told her the story of that ring a dozen times growing up. How my mother wore it every day. How my father proposed with it 40 years ago. How I kept it locked away because it was too precious to risk losing. Amanda used to try it on when we were kids. Begged me to let her wear it to prom. She knew exactly what that ring meant. Blake finally called me 5 days after the engagement party. I'd been sleeping in the guest room since I got home that night. Hadn't spoken to him despite him being in the house. He knocked on the guest room door that morning. Said we needed to talk. I opened it and waited. He sighed like I was being difficult. Then said the words that changed everything. You were always holding me back, Tessa. Amanda brings me peace. You bring pressure and expectations and constant disappointment. He said I made him feel trapped. Like he couldn't breathe. Like he was drowning in my needs and depression and emotional problems. I stared at him. This man I'd supported for a decade. I paid half the bills while building his business. Ran his books for free. Designed everything he needed. Supported every failed project and bad investment. I was never the trap. I was the safety net. The foundation. The reason he could take risks at all. I found out about the group chat by accident. My cousin Tyler felt guilty and sent me a screenshot. The entire family had a separate message thread without me. They'd been planning the engagement party for weeks. Amanda had sent them dress photos asking which one made her look most like a bride. Blake had sent a photo of the ring asking if it was nice enough. My aunt had suggested the fairy lights. My uncle had offered to pay for the champagne. Not a single person told me what was happening. They'd all chosen sides. Decided I was the problem. The difficult one. The one who needed to be managed and excluded. Tyler's message said he was sorry. That he'd argued against keeping it secret. But nobody listened. They said I would ruin Amanda's happiness. That I'd always been jealous of her success. That I needed to let Blake go gracefully. I blocked Tyler's number. His apology meant nothing now. I called a property attorney the next morning. My friend Olivia connected me with someone she knew from college. A sharp woman named Victoria who specialized in real estate fraud. I explained everything. The house we'd bought together. The business I'd helped build. The missing ring. The secret engagement. Victoria listened carefully and took notes. Then she started digging into Blake's business records. Found something interesting within 2 days. Blake had moved all his real estate earnings into a separate LLC last year. Behind my back. Sterling Properties Group registered in his name only. And he'd stopped listing me as a co-owner of anything. Our house. Our joint accounts. Everything was being slowly transferred to his sole control. He'd been planning this for over a year. Systematically removing me from everything we'd built together. The engagement party wasn't spontaneous romance. It was the final step in a calculated plan. Amanda made it public the next day. Posted the engagement photos all over social media. Professional shots someone had taken at the party. Her in the white dress. Blake on one knee. The ring prominently displayed in every image. Her caption said exactly this, she said yes. To forever with my best friend. So grateful for family who supports real love. Followed by a ring emoji, a green heart for the emerald, and hashtags. Blessed. Family first. True love. New beginnings. She knew exactly what she was doing. Knew I'd see it. Knew my friends would see it. Knew everyone would understand what that ring meant. She wanted the world to watch her take everything that was mine. Wanted me to see her playing happy bride with my mother's memory on her finger. The comments were full of congratulations. People who didn't know the truth. Didn't know she was wearing stolen jewelry. Didn't know Blake was still legally married to me. Victoria called with more bad news. Blake had filed to refinance our house 3 months ago. Removed my name from the mortgage entirely. Claimed I had moved out permanently. That we were separated and heading for divorce. The paperwork was dated 3 days after my miscarriage last spring. I hadn't moved out. I'd been in the guest room. Bleeding. Grieving the baby we'd lost at 11 weeks. Too devastated to function. He'd used my worst moment to commit fraud. Forged my signature on documents saying I'd abandoned our home. Victoria's voice was angry when she explained what this meant. He'd been planning to keep the house entirely. Leave me with nothing. Make it look like I'd walked away from everything willingly. If Amanda hadn't worn that ring to a public party, I might never have known. Might have signed divorce papers without questioning anything. He'd almost gotten away with complete theft. I remembered something crucial that night. When Blake and I got married 6 years ago, he'd insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Said it was just smart business. That we both needed protection. I'd been hurt but agreed. The prenup said anything either of us owned before marriage stayed separate. But 2 years ago, when I invested $20,000 of my inheritance into his business, we modified it. Added clauses about shared business assets and property. Blake's lawyer drew up the modification. We both signed it at his office. But here's what I remembered, we never got it notarized. Blake said we'd do it later. Said it wasn't urgent. We never went back. That modification wasn't legally enforceable. Which meant the original prenup still stood. Everything Blake had built with my money and labor was still legally his. Unless I could prove fraud. Victoria smiled when I told her this. Said she loved it when overconfident men made stupid mistakes. Olivia sent me something interesting the next week. A screenshot of credit card statements she'd found while helping me organize my files. Amanda had opened a credit card in my name when we were in college together. 10 years ago. I'd helped her apply for student housing and stupidly given her my information when she asked. The card had never been closed. Amanda had been using it occasionally for small purchases. Keeping it just active enough to avoid cancellation. Technically, this was identity theft. I could press charges. File a police report. Ruin her credit and possibly get her arrested. But I didn't. Not yet. Victoria said to keep it in my back pocket. Let Amanda think she was safe. Let both of them believe they'd won. Meanwhile, I was building a case that would destroy them both. Every piece of fraud. Every lie. Every stolen dollar. I documented everything and waited. Victoria found Blake's biggest secret buried in property records. A vacation condo in Vermont purchased just last month. Registered solely in Blake's name. He'd used our shared credit history to secure the mortgage. Our combined income to prove he could afford it. But the down payment came from somewhere specific. My mother's inheritance. $40,000 she'd left me when she died. Money I'd deposited into our joint account thinking we were building a future together. Blake had withdrawn it slowly over 6 months. Small amounts that didn't trigger alerts. Then used it to buy property with his mistress. To create their perfect escape. Their romantic getaway funded entirely by my dead mother's money. Victoria asked if I wanted to file criminal charges immediately. I said not yet. Let them enjoy their Vermont fantasy. Let them plan their wedding. Let them think they'd gotten away with everything. The fall would be so much sweeter. I discovered Amanda had applied for a freelance position at a design firm I occasionally contracted with. Cooper Creative Studios. A company I'd worked with for 3 years. Where the owner knew my work intimately. Amanda's application came through the review system the following week. Her portfolio was full of designs that looked suspiciously similar to mine. Color schemes I'd created. Layouts I'd developed. She'd been stealing my work for months. Maybe years. Using pieces I'd posted online and claiming them as her own. The studio owner forwarded me her application asking my opinion. Said something felt off but he couldn't place it. I smiled while typing my response. Explained carefully that several pieces were copies of my work. Attached original files with timestamps. Suggested he might want to reconsider her application. Amanda's dream job disappeared before she even knew she'd been rejected. One small piece of justice. So many more to come. I took the ring to be appraised. Found a jeweler who specialized in antique estate pieces. An older man who examined it carefully under his magnifying glass. Asked where I'd gotten such a beautiful piece. I explained it was my mother's. That my husband had given it to someone else. The jeweler's face darkened. He wrote down a number and slid it across the counter. $19,000. The ring was worth $19,000. My mother had told me it was valuable but I'd never known exactly how much. Blake had claimed it was basically worthless when I'd cried about losing it. Said it had sentimental value but that was all. He'd lied about everything. The jeweler explained that legally, inherited jewelry never becomes marital property. It was mine. Always had been. Blake had no right to take it. No right to give it away. It was theft. Plain and simple. I paid for a detailed written appraisal. Added it to my growing file of evidence. Victoria sent Amanda a legal notice the next day. Certified mail requiring a signature. The letter demanded 3 things. Return the ring immediately. Cease using my name in any promotional posts or professional materials. Remove all engagement photos featuring stolen property from social media. The letter explained that failure to comply would result in immediate legal action, including criminal charges for receiving stolen property. Amanda's response was to block me on every platform. Phone. Social media. Email. Everything. She didn't return the ring. Didn't take down the photos. Didn't acknowledge the letter at all. She thought blocking me made her untouchable. Thought if she ignored reality it would disappear. She didn't realize what was coming. That blocking me just made everything easier. Meant I didn't have to see her face while I systematically destroyed her future. Blake called Victoria's office screaming about harassment. Threatened to file a restraining order. Victoria calmly explained he'd stolen property and committed fraud. Then hung up on him. I drove to my mother's grave on a cold Tuesday morning. Hadn't visited in months. Felt too guilty. Like I'd failed to protect the one thing she'd left me. I sat on the grass next to her headstone and told her everything. About Blake's betrayal. Amanda's lies. The ring on the wrong hand. I cried for the first time since the engagement party. Let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. Then I pulled out a piece of paper. Wrote a note in my mother's favorite purple pen. I didn't let them bury me with you, Mom. I'm still here. I'm still standing. And I'm going to fight for what you left me. I left the note weighted down with a smooth stone. Drove home feeling lighter. Stronger. My mother had been a fighter. Had survived cancer twice before it finally took her. She wouldn't want me to roll over. She'd want me to burn their world down. I sent an email to the entire family that night. Every aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandparent on both sides. The subject line said, "You left me out. Here's what you didn't know." I attached everything. Property records showing Blake's hidden condo. Bank statements proving he'd stolen my inheritance. The original and modified prenup documents. Credit card statements showing Amanda's decade of identity theft. The jeweler's appraisal of the ring. Screenshots of their text messages planning how to exclude me. I added no commentary. No emotional explanation. Just a single line at the top. I thought you should see the truth before you attend their wedding. Then I pressed send and turned off my phone. Let them read it. Let them understand what they'd supported. Let them feel ashamed of choosing lies over family. I didn't need their apologies. Didn't want their guilty phone calls. I just wanted them to know they'd been wrong about everything. Amanda deleted all her social media within 24 hours. Instagram. Facebook. Twitter. Everything gone. Blake emailed me begging to talk privately. Said we could work this out. That I was ruining his reputation over a misunderstanding. His business was losing clients. People were canceling contracts. Asking uncomfortable questions about his ethics. 2 family members called to apologize. My cousin Tyler. My Aunt Maureen. Both crying. Saying they didn't know the full story. That Blake had told them I was mentally unstable. That I'd cheated on him. That I'd agreed to give Amanda the ring. I didn't reply to anyone. Didn't answer calls. Didn't engage with their excuses. I was already packing. Already planning my exit from a life that had never really valued me. The house would be mine soon. Blake would be gone. And I'd rebuild everything without the weight of people who'd chosen convenience over truth. The court ruled in my favor 3 months later. Judge Peters was a woman in her 60s who'd clearly seen too many men try similar schemes. She dismissed the modified prenup as unenforceable. Ruled that all marital assets would be split. But the house was awarded to me completely based on Blake's mortgage fraud. He'd committed forgery. Lied on legal documents. Used my credit without permission. The Vermont condo was ordered sold with proceeds returned to me since he'd used my inheritance. Blake cried in court. Actually cried. Begged the judge to reconsider. Said he'd made mistakes but didn't deserve to lose everything. Judge Peters looked at him coldly and said he should have thought about consequences before stealing from his wife. Amanda didn't show up to any hearings. Had apparently moved back in with her parents. The engagement was quietly called off according to Tyler. Blake had nothing left to offer her. The ring came back to me in a manila envelope. No note. No apology. Just the velvet box containing my mother's emerald. I held it for a long time. Thought about what it represented. Then I drove to a jeweler. Asked if the stone could be reset. The woman smiled and showed me designs. I chose a simple pendant. White gold chain. The emerald hanging close to my heart where it belonged. My mother's ring didn't belong on anyone else's finger. It was mine now. On my terms. 6 months later, I showed up to Blake's business launch party. He was trying to rebuild his reputation. I'd been invited professionally by a client who didn't know our history. I walked in wearing a black jumpsuit and my mother's emerald around my neck. Blake froze when he saw me. I raised my glass across the room and said loud enough for people to hear, "Congratulations on your fresh start. Tell Amanda I said hello. If she's still around." Then I left. Not bitter. Not broken. Just better. Free. And finally wearing my mother's love the way it was always meant to be worn.